All right, man. Thank you for returning. My name is Jeff Staten, and this is Pressing Toward the Mark. Today, I don't have a topic per se, right? But I have a goal, and that goal is to encourage you. All my videos, in all honesty, is to encourage you, but today, that is my specific goal, right? Today, we live in a precarious time, right? Things are crazy all around us. And if you look at looking at the craziness in the political climate in our country, the global unrest that's happening, right? It's a crazy time. It's a crazy time for you. It's a crazy time for your family. It's a crazy time even for your enemies. We're all going through something right now. And I hope to say something today that will encourage you, to lift you up and carry you through what's happening today. All right, let's get started. One love. All right, man, let's get started. Yes? Good. Today, my friend, we are living in precarious times. And I think you would agree with that. We are living in times that are at the very least concerning, right? If we're talking about the global unrest, right? We are closer to World War III than we've ever been in decades. Yes? If you take in consideration what's going on here in America, we are closer to a civil war than we've been in decades, right? On top of all of that, you can pile on what's happening to you personally, right? What's happening to you in your body as far as your health, what's happening in your mind as far as your mental health, what's happening in your family, what's happening in your wallet, right? All of that is resting on your shoulders as you climb the mountain we call life. It is the perfect recipe for worry. And worry is just another word for fear. Now, if you've followed me in this channel for any length of time, you'll know that I've dealt with the topic of fear in most of my channels, right? I've dealt with the fact that fear is simply your mind telling you it has no data. It has no proof. It has no proof to indicate to you that it can navigate what's happening, the obstruction, the problem, right? And when your mind doesn't have enough or any data, it creates fear in you. And it doesn't stop there, unfortunately, because depending on just how large the obstruction is, depending on just how large the dilemma is for you, the more intense the fear is. And when fear becomes extreme, fear will turn your mind on you, right? And when your mind turns on you, it does two things. Number one, it indicates to you, it displays to you your insufficiencies. It demonstrates to you very clearly what you cannot do. It's kind of like nana boo boo. You can't do this, you can't do that, and you can't do this, right? Take, for instance, your mortgage payments. You just lost your job, right? That's a humongous concern for you. And that fear can be so intense for you that it'll start your brain will turn on you as an enemy, as an opponent, and say, look, you can't provide for your family. Look, because of you, your family's gonna be out of a home. Because of you, because you can't find a job, it will focus on your insufficiencies. Your mind will become an opponent to you, right? And number two, depending on just how severe the fear is, fear will become an opponent to your faith. It will challenge what you say you believe. And in doing so, it'll rewind your memory, right? It'll remind you of the times when you were praying. It'll remind you of the times when you were telling other people the goodness of God and the greatness of God and the powerful nature of God, right? It'll remind you how you boasted of the greatness of God, right? And in that moment, in that severe, fearful moment, your mind will say to you, where's God now? Your mind will ask you blatantly, where is El Elyon now? Where's El Shaddai now? Your mind will become a direct opponent to your faith. Let me show you something. Let me show you what you need to do when your mind becomes your enemy. All right, turn with me to Proverbs. Proverbs, 3rd chapter, the 5th verse. Proverbs 3 and 5, and it reads as follows: trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Now, in the face of this, right, considering what's pending in your life, right, with the possibility of nuclear bombs, right, to say to someone, trust in God, right, that seems a little bit understated, doesn't it? But look, be patient with me and walk with me with this. All right. Now, this verse says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Right. In other words, commit your whole heart, not part of it, not some of it, but trust the Lord with all your heart, your whole heart. Commit your heart to trusting in God. Now, during this time, when Proverbs was being written, the Hebrew people believed that the heart housed your soul, right? They believed that your heart housed your thoughts, your emotions, and your will, right? They believed that everything that you used to make decisions was housed in your heart. Right? And it was saying, and this verse is saying to us, with your will, with your emotions, with your thoughts, trust God. Right? Now, how does one trust God with his will, with their thoughts, and with their emotions? All right. Now, let's start with the will. You trust God with your will by regulating the product that your mind, that your thoughts and your emotions create. Right? And that's what your will does. You will your emotions in moments of fear to not create emotions of fear, to create emotions that will cause you to fall in situations like this, right? In troubled times, your emotions will create fear, right? So your will regulate the product that your emotions will create. It will your emotions not to be afraid, all right? It will the thoughts that your thoughts will create. Right? Let's talk about this pending or possible civil war. What thoughts emanates from your mind when you think of it? What happens in trusting God, your will regulates the product that your thoughts create. All right? Now, All of that sounds pretty complex, right? But this verse gives us a cheat code on how to do that, on how to get your will to regulate your thoughts, to regulate your emotions, right? And it says you do that by not leaning on your understanding, right? By not relying on your understanding, because it's your understanding that feeds your thoughts. It's what you understand that feeds your emotions, right? It is what you understand about your wife that creates the emotion that you have for her, right? It is what you understand about your wife that creates the thoughts that you have concerning her, right? So if your understanding is faulty, it will feed faulty emotions. If your understanding is faulty, it will feed faulty thoughts. And those faulty emotions and those faulty thoughts will make it difficult for the will to regulate the product that your thoughts and emotions create, so that you can trust in the Lord. All right. So it is your understanding of what's going on around you, what you think you understand, what you think you believe is happening around you, that's feeding your soul, that's feeding your heart, that's feeding your emotions, that's feeding your thoughts, that's disabling you from being able to trust in the Lord with all your heart. All right? So in moments like this, right, it is very important of you to not rely on what you think is happening. All right? Now, this verse says to not rely on what you understand. It doesn't say not to create an understanding, right? God is not an idiot, right? God understands the functionality of the brain and the mind. God understands that your mind is going to come to a conclusion based upon what's happening to you and based upon what you see and what you feel, right? Your doctor told you that you have cancer, right? Your mind is going to come to an understanding based upon that information, right? And God is not saying to you, don't come to an intellectual, a logical understanding of what's happening to you. This verse is telling us is, don't rely on it. The doctor told you you have cancer. Don't rely on that. The news is telling you that everything is crazy everywhere on earth. Don't rely on that. You have an understanding about what's happening in your family, in your marriage. This verse is telling us, do not lean on that. Do not allow your understanding, do not allow the functionality of the brain and the mind to create the finality judgment about what is happening, right? I understand that it's possible for Kamala Harris to be our president. You may not like that, but don't rest on that understanding. You understand that it's possible for Donald Trump to become president. You may not like that, but don't rest on what you understand about it, right? Don't lean on your own understanding, because that understanding could be faulty, and again, creating faulty thoughts, creating faulty emotions, and making it difficult for your will to regulate those thoughts and emotions, and negating your ability to trusting God. All right, let's keep going. Turn with me to 1 Peter. 1 Peter, the 5th chapter and the 7th verse. 1 Peter 5 and 7, and it reads as follows: casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Now, I have to reemphasize what I said earlier, that God is not a fool. God understands neuroscience. He understands the functionality of your brain, and he expects your brain to function in the way that he created it to. God understands that your mind is going to come to a conclusion about what's happening. God knows that that's going to happen, right? But again, it is the relying upon, it is the leaning on, it is the allowing that understanding that you've obtained to be the end all about everything that's happening, right? So Jeff, okay, God doesn't want us to lean on our understanding. Then what do we do with that understanding that is created in our mind naturally, right? Well, this verse says to cast your cares upon him. Now, the word care in this verse does encompass the things that you are concerned about, the things that you ruminate about on a daily basis. But more specifically, in the context of this verse, the word care speaks to those things that challenge your faith, those things that challenge your trust in God. All right? Again, the thoughts that your brain naturally creates, right, is one thing, but the thoughts that your brain creates that challenges your faith, the thoughts that your brain creates that challenges your trust in God, this verse says, cast those to God, to give them to God. All right? Why? Because God careth for us. And that careth is a present tense, meaning that God is in the process, that he is actively caring for you, right? So when you cast all the thoughts, all the emotions that challenges what your faith in God, God is saying get rid of them, because it is his job, it is his responsibility to take care of those things for you, right? God careth. Right now, as we speak, as you sit, God is caring for you presently, in this moment, currently. God careth for you. All right? Now, it says also to cast those cares. Right? Now, the word cast in this verse doesn't simply mean just give them to God. Right? Here, God, take my cares. No. There is an attitude installed in casting. The word casting means to violently, deliberately, forcefully get away from you. Right? You see those cares, you see those the understandings that your mind created, and you recognize that it's challenging your faith in God. You find those thoughts, you find those understandings repugnant and disgusting, and cast them to God, give them to God, because it is God's place to take care of those concerns and those cares. Right? Now listen, man, if you are having trouble trusting God, right, and the understandings that you have about what's going around you is causing you to distrust God, to doubt God, that is because of the understanding being larger in your mind than it should be. The understanding that you have about what's happening about you, around you, is creating thoughts, is creating emotions that your will can't regulate, which disables you from being able to trust in God. Right? Those thoughts you need to cast away. Get them away from you. You know, oftentimes when it comes to challenging situations, things that you see is apparently more powerful than you, and it begins to test your faith in God, it is in that moment that is a great time for you to rehearse past victories. Remember where God has brought you in the past. Remember times when you had no power. Remember those times when you were confused, and that here you sit through God's carroting, through God's involvement, through God's knowing things that you don't know, right? Through God having already a plan set in place, even though you don't detect it, even though you don't know what it is, right? Through all of those things, through God's carroting for you, He brought you through. And here you are in this moment. And it's in this moment that you need to rehearse those moments. You need to remember those moments. Remember God's abilities in those moments. When God's ability isn't clear now, remember God's ability in the past. All right, man, I understand that it's crazy right now, man. Some of you believe that Kamala Harris is going to give over the country to the immigrants in China, right? Don't lean to that understanding. Some of you believe that Donald Trump is going to reinstate Jim Crow. Well, this verse is telling us not to lean to that understanding, right? Because those understandings can cause you to distrust God. What you do is cast those cares to God. God, I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. God, I don't know what the world will look like in the next 5 years. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to relinquish what I think and what I understand, what I think I should know unto you. It's your place to handle those things that's happening to me, because you careth for me. All right, man. Don't let Fox News, MSNBC, whatever it is, to draw you away from your relationship from God. Don't even let what the doctor says, what your wife is telling you, what your financial counselor is telling you, to draw you away, to cause you to distrust, because God careth for you. All right, I gotta go, man. I hope I said something that will encourage you, give you some understanding, the intricacies of who God is and what God can do in situations like this, give you an understanding why you're sitting in this moment of fear and what the intricacies of that fear is. It is my belief that once a person understands something, he has a better power, he has better agility in navigating the moment. And I hope I gave you a better understanding, a better strength in this moment by what I said. If not, let me know in the comments, man. Like, Jeff, you didn't say much this time, right? I'm fine with that. Whatever you think you need to tell me in the comments, man. I'll appreciate and I'll comment. Man, I say it every week. I mean it this week as well. Thank you for showing up. My name is Jeff Staten, and this is Pressing Toward the Mark. One love.